with the UFO stuff, it's the same thing. I think that some of it is, kind of a psyop. I mean, COVID, for Christ's sake, was probably in my lifetime the most politicized. Bob Lazar's one, and I always tend to go back a little bit, thing happening ever. Everybody politicized it, and it didn't need to be politicized. So they, 100%. Even though some of it's real, some of it's not, and some of it's just them moving their agenda forward.
Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Let's Get Chatting podcast. I've got Bob with me today. We're going to be talking all sorts, really. There's not a specific subject as such, which is good because, quite frankly, as you all know, listening, my ADHD goes all over the gaff. So, yeah, it's definitely something that I enjoy more as opposed to just sticking to one individual subject. I'm like, right, let's just boom, let's go for it. But before we start, tell us a little bit about yourself, Bob, what you do, where you're at, that sort of thing.
So my name's Bob Lament. I'm in St. Louis, Missouri, if you've ever heard of it. I don't know.
Yeah.
It can be, I don't know, I suppose it's quite famous for beer because of Anheuser-Busch and the Clydesdales and all that.
Yeah.
But, they're here. I've seen them. I don't know them by name, but I've visited. I do this and that and what have you here lately, it seems like. Nothing too descript, I don't think. But I've got a show called Static Radio that I've been doing for a while, and I do some comedy here and there. So there you go.
Okay, so Static Radio, because you've been doing that for like over 20 years, right?
Yeah. Jeez. Yeah, the first show, our first official show was January 1999.
Do you know what exact day? I was born in January.
Well, I just say the first because actually we started doing it on Thanksgiving, but
okay.
We didn't really kind of commit to doing it with any kind of regularity until January. So I always just say January 1st. I don't recall what day it was. I think it was actually the 3rd when that show was put out. So
I was born on the 30th. I was hoping for some like lucky stars to align, but and how's the radio show going? Like how does that work for you? Because I've never really spoken to anybody who does like a radio show or anything like that. So.
Well, the idea for Miles, my co-host, and I, we were in college together and we did a show and we call it Static. And then we graduated and I'm like, well, do you want to keep doing this? And this has been a long time ago now. And so I figured out a way to do it. And we've basically been doing a weekly show ever since. So, podcasting came along. And so we jumped in on that and all that good kind of stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, podcasting was 2004, I think.
Damn,
it's been a little while now.
2004 sounds like yesterday, but also so long ago.
It's 21 years ago now.
I know, that's crazy to actually think about. It's
is.
Wow, it makes me feel old. And
you feel old. Goodness.
Yeah. What's with the Avatar, if you don't mind me asking? Where does that come into play?
Well, so we mostly just do audio and have done audio for years and years and years. And so about, I think it was 2017, 2018, we had a person, a listener who said, I would love to see a cartoon version of your show. And so I had kept that in the back of my head all these years. Whenever I kind of stumbled across some technology to do it, I thought, well, we'll try it now. And so I'm a cat and Miles was a snowman, and we did our show animated for probably about 9 months. But at the time, back then, it was a lot of work. I took go on vacation or what have you, on holiday, as you would say. And I went on holiday. When I came back, I'm like, this is too much work. And so we dropped that for our regular stuff. But then since then, there's been, kind of a big push for guests and so forth. And so I brought it back from the dead to be my guesting persona. And I've been doing that now for, I don't know, like 2021, something like that.
Nice.
And yeah, so we get a good. I usually get a good. Either I get a good reaction or a bad reaction when people come on. Mostly good, but
I definitely thought of Rick and Morty straight away.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a little bit different. I wanted to go for something that was like 2D animation as opposed to some of the avatars. And so it's not like a stock avatar that you would just get on Zoom or what have you. So it's kind of its own creation from way back, in 2018. And I've just kind of kept it up. It's all in real time. So it looks at my face and, kind of blinks when I blink, and the mouth moves and my head moves, and all that good kind of stuff.
It's really cool. It's crazy. I thought I'd bring it up because some of my viewers are going to be like, "What the fuck?" And I'm like, "Well, all right, it's all good, So cool. Speaking about technology, actually, it's something I wanted to get your thoughts on. Really, like the whole AI situation.
Oh, I'd love to talk about AI. I do.
Okay, brilliant. Well, first of all, what's your just overarching opinion on AI?
It's fantastic. I mean, obviously, it's going to be, a boon for everyone to have access to this, right? But I think at this point, to be quite honest, we're in the hype phase. So everybody's promising the world, and they're not delivering. But they deliver just enough to where people who maybe haven't been involved in anything, they'll go, "My God, this is the greatest thing ever. We've never been able to do this." It's like, well, yeah, we kind of have been.
It's just easier.
It's just easier. Exactly. It's just so much easier now than it used to be. But it's not fulfilling all the promises that everybody keeps making, and getting everybody stirred up. You're going to lose your job. You're going to, it's like, come on. I mean, let's be honest. Half the jobs that people have, or maybe even 3/4, they don't even want. I want AI to take my job. I don't want this crappy job. Give me something better to do. It's
100%.
So there's nothing. I mean, everybody gets, stirred up and everything, but I don't think there's anything to worry about at the moment. I mean, eventually something will happen as we, kind of turn things over to having more AI in control of parts of our lives. Then something's going to happen that's going to be negative, whether it be self-driving cars and running over children, or the medical system says, well, put in your symptoms to AI, and they're going to tell you if you get a kidney or not, and somebody's going to die. But that's all, to be honest with you, that's all part of the process. Do you know how many people died whenever they invented the threshing machine for grain? I mean, so many people got mangled in those things back in the olden days, but that's part of progress. I mean,
100%.
I mean, there's people that I'm in the Midwest, and so there's a lot of agriculture and stuff here. I mean, there's people I know today that have lost fingers to machinery now.
I definitely would. I'm a technology guy. I'd lose more than my hand would be gone within a week.
Yeah, you're Josh Four Fingers or something. And but I mean, that's just the way that technology gets adopted, and we always take the risk, right? So we take the risk. We're like, in the family farm or whatever, you're like, yeah, if Josh loses a finger, who cares? This is so much easier for us, right? Yeah. We're making more money than we've ever made. If Josh loses a finger, he'll be okay, right?
It's fine. He can then operate the machine. It's fine.
Yeah, he can still. Yeah, he doesn't need to pick his nose all day like he's been doing.
Exactly that. It's funny because with AI, like as you're saying, it's making things so much easier, but it's just not perfect yet. So I actually applied for my visa to move to the States because my fiance is from America. She's her family are in Tennessee.
Oh, okay.
So we go for like 6 weeks of the year. It's great. I love it over there. And I'm like, I want to move. Now we're slightly debating it,
You might want to wait a couple years.
Yeah. But it's not much better here. But it's funny because with regards to the sort of the visa process and whatnot, it seemed so like old school, with like when it comes to like technology now, it was so fucking old school. But where I was going with this is, so I started applying for jobs in the States.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a telecoms engineer by trade. And it was like every like telecoms company I was speaking to were like, are you AI trained? Are you AI trained? And I was like, fuck no, like, you know,
of course I am.
Like, you could type into a keyboard, right? Like that's pretty much all you need. Well, the problem came when I started reviewing these AI things, and everyone was like, "These are really shit," and they're just not there yet. And we're all like at this mad boom with AI, as you were saying, but it's like we're so far away, but we're also so close. But you know, I think with AI, the good thing is it's sort of self-improving, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's working itself out, and technology is just going to grow so much faster.
Yeah. And I think that therein lies the problem, right? Is that much like in the past, with different, you know, technologies, it's going to outpace people's ability to understand it and also people's ability to utilize it effectively. So, you know, you're going to have all these people who jump to the forefront because they're lucky enough to have been around at the time that these things were coming on and understand things better. I mean, basically at this point, and the thing is it's actually not any different than it has been for the last 10 or 20 years. You know, people who go on a search engine, they're like, I can't find shit on this Google. It says it has everything, but it doesn't. It's like, well, because you don't know how to type anything in the way that it understands in order to get it back out. And that's the same thing with AI. It's all about the queries, right? So you have to make a decent query in order to get a decent answer. And people still don't know how to do this. They still don't understand that you're not talking to a person, you're talking to a machine, and the machine doesn't know all the nuances of language. And so you
100%.
have to be very particular in your language usage to get the answers out that you want. It's better, right? It's better, but it's not perfect. And that's what one of the big problems with AI right now is that, you know, they are overhyping it, and then people do something and it doesn't turn out, and they're like, well, this doesn't work. And it's like, well, it does, but you just don't know how to work it.
Yeah, nah, 100%. And what's your opinions on like all these like AI generated sort of videos, pictures, like podcasts and everything now? Like, because they're getting so real. Like, shit.
I mean, it's not going to stop. I would say in one regard, I don't like it at all, but I don't, you know, you said you work in telecom. So if you can think about over the last even like 40 years, visual art, right?
Yeah.
You just, I mean, anything, taking photographs, making videos, film, painting, anything visual art has degraded, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because all these tools are so easy for people to use. And I was, you know, way back when I was kind of a proponent, like, you know, everybody was holding their phone vertically and doing all these videos, right? And I'm like, turn it fucking sideways so it's widescreen. Yeah. Why would you hold your phone like that when you're taking a video? It looks like shit. Yeah. But you know what? Now, who cares, right? Yeah, everybody does it. And you have all these shitty videos out on the internet that people love. They go viral, and you watch it and you're like, I mean, it's like modern art. You're like, that's the biggest piece of crap I've ever seen in my life. Why do people like this? Because it has no, you know, because we've degraded certain aspects of the artfulness. Now with AI, you can have things look like better, right? But
yeah.
But you know, now you've taken away a huge amount of the creativity that goes into it and given it 100%. To a machine that basically is just mimicking what everyone else thinks is good art. And eventually what's going to happen is you do that as an iterative process, is it's going to drag the artfulness of all this down even further, because what's good art becomes what's popular. And whenever something's, you know, really dumb becomes popular and looks like crap, then crap becomes art. And then the machine learns that and then drags everything down with it. So, and I don't want to sound like a snob or anything, but, you know, even if you ask people who really like these kind of things, they'll look at them and they'll be like, you know, well, it's amusing and it's entertaining and so forth, but is it really artful? And they'll say no. It's just,
Yeah.
the best thing of the day. It caught everybody's attention. There's so many here in the States. There's so many fake Trump videos of him doing everything under the sun. I mean, it's ridiculous, right?
They are funny though.
They are funny, but I mean, at some point, we have to, get out of that. But not that I don't care if he doesn't like it or whatever. It's just at some point, it's like a bad joke. It just keeps getting worse and worse and worse until it works its way out the bottom to where it's not even funny anymore. It's just, it is. Because people played it over and over and over again. So, I mean, that's kind of what, where we're at right now with a lot of these things is that, it's just it's got to play itself out.
The phase out, don't they? Because it's a fad, and also, I think another thing actually I want to talk about, it's a perfect time to talk about it, I guess, is like, I think social media has definitely dumbed people down in a sense where they find these non-creative things funny and also use AI more for like the clicks. It is these social media superstars who are going viral with these shitty videos and shitty pictures. Which is sort of, in a sense, dumbing us all down. So we're finding these things more entertaining or beautiful or, whatever than they actually are. Yeah. And I think with social media as well, it's like, it's taken over people's minds so much. Fucking hell has it? It gets me every time because, it gives people such a false sense of what life should be. But I suppose the question to you would be, is with regards to social media, how has it impacted you? Because obviously, if you've been doing even just the radio show for 20 years, you've seen social media's impact from the very start to where it is now. What's sort of your feelings on it? And,
Yeah, I was one of the early Twitter people, and I had to watch everybody take pictures of their damn lunch.
I've only just started Twitter.
Or X, whatever you want to call it, right? Yeah, the funny thing about Twitter is, I don't know if people remember, I'll give you a quick history lesson. It actually was the people who made Twitter made a podcasting tool called Odeo, and it failed. And they took Odeo and they changed it to Twitter, and that was the success. So yeah, the funny thing is Twitter was actually, its origins, and now X, was as a podcasting tool.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So it was funny because I was on Odeo and I was doing stuff on Odeo, and the next thing I know, it's like, Odeo's shutting down and we're becoming Twitter. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'll get on Twitter. What the heck's this? And I had a friend in New York, and he was really into it. He'd tweet all day, and I'd see what I'm walking down the road tweeting it, and then everything, and it devolved into people taking pictures of the lunch. That was the big thing whenever Twitter was first going, is everybody like, I'm having, whatever, Chinese for lunch. Here's my picture of it. And yeah, social media, the funny thing to me about social media now is that, we have all these AI tools for social media. So basically it's not even social anymore. It's AI to AI. So,
and that's why they can't type the right prompts into the AI, because they're spending too much time on social media.
It basically, even where I'm, guilty of this. So I have a thing that helps me post. And so then I basically make a bunch of posts on, like, in an afternoon, I'm like, today's my day to make posts. And then there's AI to help me make the post if I want to. And then then there's AI to help me schedule all the posts. So I'm supposedly at the spot when people are actually paying attention, which they're not. Then
that's all shit.
And then it can generate its own self off of your old posts if you want to. And so then basically I have a whole month's worth of, crappy posts in an afternoon that then get doled out, throughout the day and are iterative, right? So it just keeps doing it. And at some point, everybody's going to be doing that, and then nobody's going to be reading your post. What I haven't done, and maybe it's possible, and I haven't looked into this, is to have my AI go out and like other people's posts. As soon as that happens, it's all going to fall apart, because if you're not actually having to click on something to interact with somebody else's post, and your AI is doing it for you, then what are we
super
doing
bots.
then, right? What's
It's
the point?
super bots, isn't it? You know, because
Yeah.
you can pay for, like, you know, there's so many people who pay for likes, follows, all that sort of shit, and it's all just fake accounts, and that's all it is just AI super bots.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying if I have my own super bot, I can say, okay, whatever Joshua posts something like it. You know what I mean? Just for me, for my directive, right? But yeah, I know you can go out and buy things. And a lot of people do that, and you know, to
It's
boost
very
themselves.
obvious.
Yeah. And I mean, they keep saying, oh, you know, all of the social media companies. Well, no, we don't let. You know, we don't. Our rankings and so forth aren't judged on the bots and everything. But you know that's not true. They're all lying.
Yeah. All right, Mark Zuckerberg, shut up. You're lying.
You're totally lying. We got 1 billion users. It's like, come on now. I mean, yeah, there's probably 1 billion names in that database, but believe me, they're not all real people with something to do.
100%. And you mentioned about Twitter being like a podcast thing originally. It's crazy because even OnlyFans started off as like a creative art website.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was originally for artists to post their art, and now it's a fucking cesspool.
Well, that's your opinion. If you had a really popular OnlyFans page, you'd be like, this is the best thing in the world, right?
Yeah, no, true. It's one of those where I think it's hard to understand if you're really not that way inclined, you know.
Well, yeah.
I had Amber was on the podcast, and she's really successful on OnlyFans, you know, really successful. And she was saying it's like amazing, it's changed her life. And I'd actually like to get your opinion on something that she said. And we sort of, I suppose I sort of agreed. And obviously with your, let's call it workers of that sort of style, whether you're doing cam girling, OnlyFans, that sort of thing. I can guarantee you've never been asked this question before. With regards to that, do you think there's any sort of social positives in that, such as she basically said to me that there's many, many bad men in the world who would go out and assault women. And the fact that they can go online and get it for a small payment and not have to leave their house is possibly lowering that percentage.
I would, well, the problem is it's pulling from both ends. So I agree with that statement. And I think if, you know, when people say, oh, we need to end all pornography and everything, which will never happen.
They're trying to do that here. It's so annoying.
Really?
They're
doing the age restrictions right over.
You have to literally put your ID in everything.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's just the forefront of the internet. So this is just the testing. This is them putting the toe in the water, and they're going to make everybody do it. This is not just, they're only using it for pornography because that's the least, that's the most politically, correct move to make. They can't do anything wrong by doing that with pornography.
It's like the Pornhub is the COVID of this year, the one test.
But I totally agree with her statement. I think that there probably is a good percentage of people who, by having this as their outlet, are not doing things that are more nefarious. The downside is on the other side of it is there's probably just as many people who have never been exposed and all of a sudden start getting exposed to these things and then go all the way to the nefarious. And so it kind of evens itself out. But I think I would agree as a whole, it's probably better than it is worse for doing that. But we just talked about AI. The problem is at this point, we don't need these women to do this. AI can do it all for us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it's only going to get crazier.
Yeah, exactly.
Sex robots.
So, because there's not going to be, nobody's going to have a limit. You type in what you want and that's what you get. And so, you know, I'm surprised at this point, to be honest with you, that there's not more of that and it's not taken over. There's no reason at this point to have, real people involved in pornography,
especially with AI as well, because firstly you've got, like, you know, MetaQuest and all these sorts of things where you can VR this stuff, which is a crazy thing in its own, but then you've also got the fact that if it's not real women, there's boundaries that people can break, which is the scary part. You know, and that's thinking of what they can physically do, age, all this sort of thing is going to be something that they're going to really try and push the boundaries with when they're using AI for this, which is where it's probably going to get worse for becoming more nefarious, because it's only a short amount of time before someone goes, oh, this isn't real, I want the real thing, you know?
Maybe. I don't know. That's one of those weird things that, I mean, social media is not the real thing, and people still want that. I mean, they think, you know, you and I just started talking today, and we're having a nice conversation, right? An open conversation and so forth. But I mean, we're never well, because of distance and so forth, we're never going to meet for lunch. Right?
Yeah.
And so, the funny thing is, though, that we have people now, because they've grown up with all of this, is these are their interactions. These are their, you know, their close friends are people they've never met and may never meet. Yeah. And there's a false sense of, a bit of a false sense of connection with that. Right.
Yeah.
And I think, that's why I say I don't know that they're really ever going to want to say, well, I want the real thing, because they've never had, at some point, they're never going to have the real thing. And so therefore it won't matter.
Is that something that worries you with regard, if we just stay in that segment with regards to like the porn industry and that sort of thing? Is that something that worries you in a sense of people are going to think they don't need the real thing, and then you're looking at like populations and things like that?
Well, we've already got population decline in the United States.
Yeah, we do here too. It's crazy.
Yeah. And I think that part of it is what we're talking about. I mean, not necessarily pornography, but part of it is the fact that people are able to fulfill some of their social needs without having to go anywhere or actually meet people. And, you know, this is going to sound creepy, but like back in the day, right, before all this happened, you know, you would know somebody who was like totally enamored with like a television personality or a film personality. And they would talk, if you would talk to them, they would talk to you about how they know this person like personally, and they have, you know, had this friendship or whatever, right? This romance even had come about just from their fantasizing about it. And I mean, these are people, I mean, you say, oh, well, they're a bunch of, you know, nutters, but these are people that are fairly normal. I'm trying to use your vernacular here.
No, you're all good. I can understand the American vernacular pretty well. Don't worry.
I always want to say nutter, but they're really, you know, fairly normal people in everyday life, but then they get carried away with these certain things. And I think now we have, you know, generationally, we're going to have generations of people who are going to be like, oh, you know, I know, you know, I've got these friends, you know, Lion Tiger 514 at, you know, that's who I know them, and they're my best buddy, and I tell them everything, you know, we're chatting all night, and, you know, but we don't even know who this person is, and if they're real, or if they're going to, you know, doing a long con on somebody, who knows? And I think that's one of the worries. The population stuff, I mean, there is a negative to that, I suppose, in some regards, but you know, it is what it is, right?
There's a lot of people, and there's too many people in a lot of places. Like in this country, it's ridiculous. And it's funny you should mention about meeting people online, because you know, again, there's positives and negatives. Like my fiance, so bit of background, I stream video games online.
And you met your fiance online, and I'm saying this, I feel terrible.
No. I met her on Tinder. Crazy. But I when I was playing a game online one night, a girl come in, shout out Amo, and her name's actually Amy, but her name was Amo, A-M-O. And anyway, we started chatting and so on. And then next thing you know, my fiance and her started chatting, and they're like literally best buds now. She has driven up and met her twice. Don't worry, like, you know. But it's crazy you should say that, because it's generally happened. Like, they talk every day. Obviously, my fiance is from America. She doesn't know too many people here. So it's one of those where it's like really good thing. But then again, when you talk about like you feel like you know people through the web as well, it's like Joe Rogan, for an example. I've listened to nearly all of his podcasts. If I met him, I think I would actually know more about him than himself. And like that's sort of the era we're going to, right? Yeah. It's like, what the fuck? But
it's not terrible to have these things. What I think the negative part is that some people, that's all they have, right?
Then
they become isolated in these situations, and then they don't know how to interact in the real world, and then that becomes their world. And I think that's kind of the negative part, I guess.
And then they start typing the correct.
Them, but you know.
And then they start typing the incorrect things into ChatGPT and getting the wrong answers because they haven't met people. You see,
right? Yeah, but you have. I mean, you. I think you need to have somewhat of connections in the real world, however you want to call it. Some people call it the
IRL
meat world, and some people call it all kinds of stuff. But I think that's the thing there. You can still have good friends and so forth, but it becomes one of those, like I have children. And so my kids growing up, I'm always telling them, I'm like, the internet is great and you're going to be able to do all kinds of great things. I do stuff on it. Everybody does stuff on it. I go, but you always have to remember, until you really know who that person is, no matter how nice or how well you get along with them, they are, removed.
Yeah.
And until you cross that threshold to where, you have a little bit more understanding, you always have to keep that in mind, because, there's just so many, like myself, I'm an avatar to you. You don't have any idea.
No
I told
clue.
you I'm in St. Louis. Who knows if I'm in St. Louis? I'm, it's one of those kind of things.
Couldn't pick you out of a lineup.
So yeah, whenever you're kids and so forth, you can't take things at face value. And so I think that I was thinking about this earlier today. This is crazy. I think part of the troubles that we're having in this country is because everybody trusts everything that's said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's becoming, there used to be, I don't want to, these darn kids today just believe it all. I don't want to be like that, but there was a healthy skepticism that I think we're lacking a little bit of in these times, not because it's the kids or anything, but I think everybody, right? Because kids didn't vote in the election, adults did. And, and so I think that we're being trained, maybe accidentally or on purpose, to be a little more trusting than we probably should be.
I think with meeting people as well, there's a big thing to be said about, like, I was talking to somebody about like energy frequencies, and whether you believe it or not, you do get a feeling from people. Mm-hmm. If you meet someone on the street, or if you meet someone randomly and you're talking to them, you do have some sort of instinctual thing where when you're face to face, you get a vibe to say, oh yeah, mm-hmm. And that is so lacking. Like, there's been countless people who I've met in, on the street or on a night out or at a coffee shop or wherever, and you're talking to them and you're like, there's something about this person that just isn't for me. And you're not getting any of that right via the internet. They can say what they think you want to hear and all this sort of stuff, but you will never get that physical feeling. And I do believe it's a frequency thing, or there's an energy or something around people, and if you're not made to be friends, you're not made to be friends. It's super simple. Mm-hmm. And I just think that they're missing that so much, and when they're actually meeting people, it's making that way harder than it needs to be.
Right. You're not picking up on, you're not listening to yourself perhaps, or that aspect of your person is not developed enough to pick up on it. Yeah, no, there is something to it. And I think you're right. For me, the interesting thing is, and I think this is something that people don't think about like on a daily basis, is that as humans, we're constantly in motion, right? You talk about frequency. This could feed into that kind of theory. And people, even if you're standing there fairly, calmly talking to each other, your body and everything is in motion. there's blood going underneath your skin that even though you don't notice it while you're standing there, you notice it. And because when you see a dead person, you notice they're dead.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you, other than you're like, well, they're not moving, it's not exactly that. There's more to it, right? So it's just like your phone, right? To unlock your phone with your face ID for your phone, it's not looking to see if you're moving. It's actually looking via infrared and some other things to measurements on your face from your eyes to your nose and mouth and everything. And it's shining infrared light on you. And that's what's figuring out if you're who you say you are.
Yeah.
And because of these measurements. And so, but I think as people, we kind of have that built into ourselves, and we're doing that same kind of thing as we're perceiving the world. But you have to have had these interactions to learn, what traits are, negative potentially, like they're going to try to steal your wallet or something, and what traits are positive. And so without having that practice, then you can get yourself into situations, I think, that are
not
could
great.
be harmful to you.
100%. 100%. And I think COVID's played a big part in this as well. Like, if you think, people are working from home, lots of kids since COVID, they've suffered with anxiety and so on. And, being locked in the house all the time, they're not reading body language the same either.
Correct.
Which is such a big thing. When you meet somebody, body language is like such a high percentage of how you can take what they're saying, and I do think that this is a lot of where, the autism diagnoses are coming from as well. Because if in my opinion, anyway, a first sign of autism for a lot of people is the human interaction side of it, and if someone's being really, really standoffish or awkward with you on the street, first thing people say now is, they're probably autistic. It's the first thing somebody says. But the fact of the matter is they've probably just not been outside. They've not learned the skills that you need to know to, have that confidence in talking to somebody. And for me, I think that that's really detrimental to society at the moment. And it doesn't help that, workplaces are allowing people to stay working from home and all of this. Like, try to have a work meeting with your boss over like Skype or a video call. You can't understand the full meeting. So how is this actually affecting businesses and all of these things? It goes so wide.
Yeah. I think so. And the other problem is, you're not, this is going to sound terrible, but I don't think it's a terrible thing that we're not doing this, but you're losing that ability to be someplace where maybe you don't totally want to be, but you have to be. And I mean, can be negative, because now you have a lot of people who get really antsy when they have to be somewhere for a long period of time. That's a kind of, because you're working or what have you, and they just can't, handle it. And then they, things go bad and things happen and so forth. And it makes for a much more, aggravation all the way around. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, where it's kind of like, I don't want, but the good thing is, it is an unnatural state necessarily to be stuck at work all day. But unfortunately our society is shaped that way. And I always hope that we're reshaping society by these things happening into something that's a little bit more tolerable and a little bit more better for people, right? So people, sitting and looking at a screen all day long is not normal habits for people. And that's what a lot of jobs are these days. You go and you get on a computer and whatever you're doing, you're clicking away and doing this and doing that. And that's it. I mean, that's not good for anybody. There needs to be some variety, right? You need to
100%.
Move around a bit. You should be trying to use your hands, even if it's just simple stuff. At the very least, back when you had to make copies, you had to be by the copy machine and move around and move things as opposed to just sitting there and clicking buttons and sending things off. And I think that there needs to be, some acceptance of the fact that that's not what people can do every day. I always feel bad, for people who, perhaps, don't have the educational opportunities or, get put into these jobs like data entry. Oh my Lord, I would kill myself if I had to be a data entry person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If AI can take away data entry from these poor people, that is a coup. Because I mean, have you ever had to do any data entry yourself?
Nah, nothing crazy. Nah.
Yeah,
no.
exactly. And would you volunteer?
No, but I do. I do try to subject myself to things that I dislike as often as possible, because I think it's really good for the brain and strengthening your mental mind state. So maybe I'd do it once, but I don't know. Maybe that's a push.
Yeah, I don't. And then transcription, which I think that's great that AI is doing all the transcription now, because I don't know if you've ever tried to do transcription on your own, right? I'm a fairly good typist, and I've done some transcription just out of need before AI. But oh my God, that's just like data entry. It's like, oh my gosh, how can people sit here and do this all day? It's just so god awful to, type somebody else's words, at speed for a long period of time. I mean, it's just terrible. And so I think, kind of wrapping it back into AI a little bit, that's what we want AI to take care of. We want to get rid of having to, have people endure this.
Yeah, 100%.
I was reading an article about, Facebook got in all kinds of trouble because of content and what have you. And so they have all these content screeners, right? And so people are basically paid to look at horrible, horrible content. Right? Like dead people getting killed and maimed and things happening, to see if it's against policy. Right. Yeah. And I'm like, that's got to be the worst job, because now you're subjecting yourself, depending on the person, which I'm sure they don't screen people to see if they have proclivity to be negatively affected by these things. They're probably like, oh, hey, Josh, you want to make, $50 an hour? Oh, hell yeah, I'll do that. And then you're subjected to all these horrors.
Sign me up.
You're subjected to all these horrors, and you literally can't get away from it. That's your 8-hour a day job. And I'm like, AI can take all that over. You know what I mean? Because
100%.
now at the end of it, I'm sure the turnover rate for those kind of jobs is just astronomical. And if it's not, then you probably better watch that person, because they have something wrong with them.
Got another Jeffrey Dahmer walking around your halls. Exactly. Dude, like, chill out. Speaking back of AI as well, like, what's your opinion on it's obviously all this UAP now, isn't it? It's not UFO.
Oh yeah,
I
UAP.
Can't stop saying UFO though.
Oh, say UFO. The government wants you to say UAP.
Fun. UFO is just more fun. It just seems more fun,
Well, it was a nice old TV show in Britain a long time ago.
I watched the Storm Area 51 Netflix documentary on Netflix.
Oh, I did. I watched that too.
I thought it was awesome. It's like this guy's just made a random post and been like, fuck it. And it's like, yeah, buddy. But with regards to like AI, there's lots of like fakes and things now. I think that's another thing is becoming really hard, because I'm a strong believer in, UFOs, UAPs, ghosts, paranormal stuff. All of that's my vibe. I'm obsessed. So with regards to like do you think that's affecting what we're seeing with regards to like obviously it's affecting what we're seeing on social media, how many videos there are of these flying saucers, but with the government releasing all this stuff now, do you think it's some sort of like hidden agenda where it's like, because we can fake all this shit, we'll tell them it's real? And what do you think?
Yes. And yes, on all counts. So I believe, if you go back and you look at previous things the government has done, one of the biggest ones, and this is, this is a well-documented case. Tuskegee Institute gave all these poor guys syphilis to see what would happen to them, and then didn't treat them, right? Knowingly. Now, they didn't tell them that. Some people came in with syphilis, some people didn't. Some people they gave syphilis to. But, it was an experiment, right? And I know this isn't UFOs, but the way that it comes back to that is the government, at least in the United States, I'm sure that you've got more examples in Great Britain, is again and again have mistreated people in the, for the greater good, whatever. There was they put some type of poisonous gas over the city of San Francisco, and people died back in the 30s. Yeah. And willingly, they knew it. They knew that this was going to hurt people, and they did it anyway because they wanted to see how it would affect the population. And they just happened to pick San Francisco because this was closest to where they were at. I don't know. Maybe they wanted to go get lunch or something over there.
I think it's a similar thing how they came with fluoride in the water as well, wasn't it? They tested it on some random fucking place, and it was like for some other reason. And next thing you know, they're like, "Yeah, fuck it, we're chucking it in all of it now." But I think that's with the UFO stuff. It's the same thing. I think that some of it is kind of a psyop, and I think there's even admitted things for that, right? They've already had things that they've admitted to say, oh yeah, we told so and so they thought it was UFO, even though it wasn't. We told them it was, and then they ended up killing themselves. And not our fault. We didn't kill him, but his brain was so messed up because he didn't know what was real and what wasn't that he got distraught and killed himself. And so I think the funny thing is I do believe that some of these are real, but I think that the government, and this is, they uses every opportunity to, push its agenda forward. So 100%. Even though some of it's real, some of it's not, and some of it's just them moving their agenda forward. And so, but that happens again and again. I mean, COVID, for Christ's sake, was probably in my lifetime the most politicized thing happening ever. Everybody politicized it, and it didn't need to be politicized. It was, and everybody can say, well, did it come from, was it manufactured? Was it natural? China. Even if you're not even into that argument, the whole fact that people were getting sick and some people were dying there's no business to politicize that, but they did. No. Yeah. And I think the UFO thing is exactly the same way. I think the ghost thing is exactly the same way. All of that is they decide to use it when they want to use it to hide things. They decide to use it when they want to exploit things. Yeah. And, but I think the reality is that every once in a while, if you look at some of these cases that you can say, well, I think that was real. That happened. Now, I'll tell you, you didn't even know this. I've seen a UFO myself personally. No way.
Yes.
Please, you got to tell me. You got to tell me. Wait,
so
are you Bob Lament?
I'll tell you about it. So, yeah. So, and I've recorded about it. So there's documentation from back in 2005 when I saw it, because I talked about it shortly after I saw it. And it was during the day. It was about 4:30 in the afternoon in May, which means it wasn't going to get dark until 7 o'clock in these parts, 7:30. Mm-hmm. So it's a daylight sighting. We're not talking about lights in the sky. We're not talking about daylight sighting. I was pushing my kids on the swing in the backyard, and we were talking, and at the time, my son was little, and he was interested in airplanes. Yep. And so we happened at the time where we lived at would be in flight patterns. So we would see airplanes coming over our house. And so as we were swinging, I would say, oh, look, here comes a jet or whatever, right? Yeah. And we would look up, and he'd be like, oh, wow, and like a little kid enjoying that. And so then I'm kind of watching for them. So that we can talk about it and have a little fun, right? As we're swinging. And so then I look up out of the corner of my eye, I catch something, and it literally flies from the, it'd be the southeast to the northwest, across, like over us, not directly overhead, but, it was way up in the sky. And it was a ball. It was a sphere. It was it looked like a metal sphere. It was flying about the height of where the jets were. It seemed like I saw it go behind clouds and come out of clouds, and it took maybe all of 20 seconds to go from when I first caught it to where I couldn't see it anymore.
Jeez.
It was moving very fast.
And so did that change your perspective immediately?
Well, the terrible part is, so I've always been interested in the topic, kind of like you mentioned yourself, you're interested in these weird kind of things. And so I had, at the time I'd always read stuff and watch stuff and be interested in all these kind of things. Anyway, I had never seen anything up to that point. And but when I saw it, I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
And I was questioning myself. Pretty much, I'm like, I know I saw this, and I would process it in my head, right? And I saw the front of it, I saw the back of it. So it wasn't a jet, right? Because it literally was a sphere. And because there wasn't a tail on it, there was no wings on it, because I saw, one side of it on the front coming kind of, 3/4 and then leaving 3/4. And and so I had to process that. And it took a little while, and I talked to some folks, and people are like poo-pooing me and so forth. And I talked a good friend at work. I talked over lunch, and I was telling him about it. He's like, "Oh no, you manifested that because you love these things so much." And I was like, "No." I'm like, if I were to manifest this in my mind, I would have done it, a long time ago when Why would I wait till that day at that time that was so random when I wasn't even thinking about anything, and I haven't done it again because I've never seen anything since. And so, you know what I mean? And it's not, Everybody loves to say stuff like that, but the realities are, I think you can always have an interest in anything. And then when you experience it, then you still have the interest, but it changes it a bit, right?
Yeah.
And so then since that day, I talk about it every once in a while, and if people ask me or it comes up like organically, like we just did with this, I'm happy to talk about it. And I do. And I'm like, now I don't know that it was alien. It could have been something that is top secret. I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
Because it didn't beam any thoughts into my head. It didn't do anything other than I just happened to be looking at the right place at the right time.
It turned you into a blue cat.
It turned me. I got zapped. So none of that happened. And my opinion now is, I think things happen constantly, and we're just not paying attention, or we're just not happening to be at the right place at the right time, because everybody likes to think, and you've traveled now, obviously you said you travel the United States. So you've traveled some great distances. Unless you travel a great distance, you don't know how much of nothing is everywhere. There's a lot of nothing in between places. And so we just don't happen to be in the right place at the right time to catch these things. The sky is not necessarily, I don't think it's filled with these things. I don't think they're cloaking or anything. I just think sometimes you happen to catch it because you looking at the right spot at the right time, because it was traveling really fast. I got just so you, as part of the experience, I got confirmation, because after this happened and I decided that it really happened, I started looking in 2005 internet to find if anybody else saw it. And I found totally, I don't know who this person is, a person in another town that saw it on the same day about the same time.
Wow.
So there was a thing, I don't think it exists anymore, but it was called UFO Maps. I didn't even know about it until I started searching because I saw this. And I found on the site UFO Maps, it was kind of like a database of UFO sightings that people could post themselves. And a person in a neighboring town said, I saw a sphere fly over my house in this direction at this time. And it was practically the same as what I was.
Wow.
So I had confirmation from, another source that wasn't me, and it wasn't anybody I knew.
That's
now
awesome.
My kids didn't see it. They were swinging. I didn't even say anything. I was just kind of awestruck. When it was happening, and everybody's like, why didn't you take a picture? I'm like, in 2005, phones were shit. And
Yeah.
even if I would have took a picture, it would have looked like nothing.
Yeah,
and if I would have been able to, I couldn't go get a camera because I didn't have enough time. That's what my co-host, he was giving me such crap when I told this story. And, you know, he's like, why didn't you take a picture? It's like, there was no time. I could not. And I was just frozen. I was frozen watching this happen and unfold in front of me. You know, it was kind of like a car wreck. You just see it and you're just like, I can't believe what I'm looking at. And your mind just starts grinding these gears to make sense of it all. And you can't. And
I think
so then it just happens.
That's an excuse people can use to, like, I would give someone to, no, not an excuse, but that's what I would be saying to somebody today, though. If somebody came to me today and was like, yesterday I seen a UFO and I seen it for 30 seconds, I would say, if you haven't got a picture, that didn't happen. Mm-hmm. But it's so different now, you know, because there was that big reported thing. Was it a mall in LA? Was it? There was like this big like war, like this like mall that like apparently these aliens were in, and all the police showing up, and
yeah,
it was. I don't. Did you hear about that?
I haven't heard about that. I haven't seen that. No.
I would urge you to look it up because it's the craziest thing.
A mall in LA?
I believe it was LA, yeah. And basically, I don't quote me on LA, but there was effectively there was a mall, mm-hmm. and there was loads of weird lights coming out of it. You could hear gunshots, all of this sort of stuff. And there was hundreds of police cars outside, not hundreds, maybe like 50 to 60 police cars outside. And like all the reports were like there was this alien in this mall and whatnot, all this crazy shit. But like I'm sat there thinking like, but all the lights are there. The gunshots are going off. There was no report of anything else.
Bayside Marketplace, shadow aliens at Bayside Marketplace a year ago.
Yeah, it's the craziest story. You
in
have
Miami,
to look it up.
Says Miami Mall incident. Sorry.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. You have to look it up because it's like it sort of like blew my mind, and then I was like, hold up, there's no pictures or videos, so I'm concerned. Like, you know, but it was one of those things where I was sort of like, this is weird. But what other than what you saw, what would you say is like, in your opinion, the standout sort of evidence? Like for me, like the Bob Lazar story is quite a big thing. And then this whole disclosure project is not that I believe Stephen Greer for 1 second, to be honest with you. You know, you can't hum and whistle aliens to existence, but you know, all of the pilots and things, like what would be your sort of standout?
Bob Lazar is one. And I always tend to go back a little bit because, you know, another thing that people forget is like we're talking about AI today, 2025. AI has been around for probably at least 20 to 30 years, and we just didn't have access. And so they could be manipulating images way, you know, back at the turn of the century easily. Yeah. So I always try to go as far back as I can. And so Lazar was in the 90s. And then another one is... I'm a blank on his name now. He was a forest guy in Arizona that got abducted.
Yes.
Walton.
His name. Travis Walton.
Travis Walton. Yeah, and because not only did he get, you know, abducted, like 6 people saw him get abducted.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't like he just was walking in the woods. He's like, hey, I got abducted. It was, you know, these people watched him get sucked up into something, you know, at least some of them saw him actually go up in the air. Yeah. And they all got freaked out. And, you know, there was a murder investigation because of it, because they thought that his coworkers murdered him. Yeah. And then he shows up days later and he's all, you know, whacked out of his head and, you know, had been dehydrated. Had obviously been like through something like physical changes in his body because he'd been gone for a certain amount of time. Right. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, Travis Walton is one of them. I think I always tend to go for these ones that seem like regular average people. Now, the hard thing for me, and this is one of those, it applies to all of this kind of, you know, ghosty, cryptid UFO stuff, because Bob Lazar does make money off of this. Travis Walton does make money off of this. Yep. Anytime people start making money is when I get a little bit, you know, I'm like, maybe not, you know, because that seems to be the dividing line for a lot of the folks, who are doing this as a pop, to be popular and to sell things,
Yeah.
as opposed to, but I think at the time for both of those people, that wasn't their original intent, was to make money. Their original intent was they were living their lives. And then now they make money on it because, their lives have been ruined. And so they have to do something.
Why wouldn't you?
Right.
It would take a very, very odd person to have a story such as what they've got and not capitalize on it. Like, that's just the truth of the matter. I'll give you something else to look up as well. The Rendlesham Forest incident.
I've heard about this over and over again.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I actually went there. I went
Did
to
you?
Rendlesham
That's
Forest.
cool. I would love.
They've got a UFO tour, and they've got like a big UFO there and stuff. It's really cool, actually. So yeah, no, I'm quite au fait with that one because I live near Boscombe Down Airfield in England, which is where they supposedly carted it all off to. So it's like basically England's Area 51, apparently. It's where they do all like the testing on the animals and all this stuff. So it's pretty cool. So that was like a little bit of a home thing for me. And I looked into it and I couldn't believe it when I read it. I was like, what the fuck? This is crazy. So obviously with regards to like UFO, do you believe in like ghost phenomenon, things like that? Or yeah.
And the funny thing is I think I've kind of, developed kind of this thought process. I don't know that they're all that different, to be honest with you. I think they all may be the same stuff, right?
Interdimensional Bigfoot,
right? All of it. They all could be aliens. They all could be ghosts. They all could be cryptids. They all could be each other, even though we've decided to classify them differently because of circumstance.
Yep.
Who's to say if you see a ghost that's not an alien?
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. To an extent, I think the thing with ghosts it really depends how you want to look. I think if people believe they're seeing demons, that's more than likely closer to what you would call an alien than your standard ghost story. But it's the Joe Rogan explains it really well. He says it's a bit like pieces of furniture and walls have memories, and it's like you're seeing. What a ghost to me would be is seeing a replay of that memory in time. So the stories of the grey ladies, the stories of people at the house, and they just see a figure walking across the hall. That's all it is, and it's just like a lapse in time. Right. That would be where I would go. That's a ghost.
Yeah, it could be when they usually call them residual hauntings.
Yes, that's the one.
That's like one of the words I think they use a lot. And yeah, I think so. I think the interesting thing to me is, and part of the reason I come up with this kind of, my thought process is that we don't know exactly how time works. So is it layers? Is all time happening at the same thing? So then UFOs could just be us in the future, or you know what I mean? So we don't, and maybe there's thin spots in time space, and so then you can see through into other eras, or maybe they're moving thin spots. I mean, we don't know enough to answer those questions yet, about how all this works and how, where I think in more populated areas, because we're more populated now than we ever have been, these things may occur more often. If we were to chart them all, you may see that these residual things happen more in more populated areas because there have been people there longer. Whereas in less populated areas, maybe they don't happen as often. And a lot of times people attribute that, to, well, it's actually age either way, to be honest with you, but they'll be like, well, because this used to be a castle and all this kind of stuff. I don't buy into that aspect of things. And I don't buy into the aspect of so many deaths, because people die everywhere. Anywhere there's people die. And so then there should be ghosts everywhere if that's the case, but there's not. There's only seems to be these pockets where things seem to happen, more often than less often, or often enough to get a reputation. And so I think there has to be something else to it. other than that, because it's just, otherwise it's just a coincidence, and I think all of this needs to have a little bit more rigorous testing in order to start honing in on what the causes are. Is it because somebody died? I don't think so, but maybe if we did enough rigorous testing, we'd find out. I mean, if it's because somebody died, literally every time you go to the cemetery, you used to see a ghost.
Yeah,
right?
No, agreed. I mean, we don't know enough about ourselves, let alone again the paranormal. And it's funny, like when you mentioned time slips, that every time I hear the word like any like sort of time tear or anything like that, I always think of a story I heard. I can't remember where I heard it. It was on like a paranormal podcast because I am obsessed. And these two ladies walk down a street, and like they're walking down the street, and next thing you know, they just see like Victorian everything.
Oh yeah, that was the Versailles teachers. So there's a story about the folks what these teachers went to Versailles, and this was not. It's been a while ago. It wasn't like in recent times. This has been like, I think it was in the 40s or 50s or something. Anyway, it was already a museum essentially. So, but it wasn't like as popular a tourist place as it is now. And they were walking along. They turn a corner, and they were at Versailles when it was used as a castle, and the court was there, and all these people were in period dress, and then they stayed there for quite some time apparently, and the next thing you know, they're back into their time period, and it was just like, it was a weird
gives me shivers
happenstance. and again, that's another thing I always think about these stories, and you never know, right? Because we can get them as stories as opposed to having an experience. But they just, the way that they're portrayed, they're just like average people. They're just doing an average thing. They're not, they're not a bunch of ghost hunters with going to go find a ghost. They're just trying to have a good day, seeing, Versailles. And this happens to them. And there's been bunches of those that are, you read story after story after story of people who have been, minding their own business. And the next thing you know, they're like, well, I'm walking down, the street, and I go into a store, and it's like out of the 20s, and it's like 1980s. And it's like, well, this looks weird. Is this an antique store? And they're like, no, what's an antique store? You know what I mean? Because antique was not a thing back then. So yeah, but those are all fascinating, I think. And I think that is the mysteries of the world. And I think there's gotta be a way to measure that if we start. And here's what we talk about a little bit about conspiracy of things. There's gotta be a way to measure that. And I believe that the governments, like worldwide governments, probably have looked into measuring it and may still be looking into measuring it, because, we can't let any good possible weaponized thing go without being studied, right? So if you could slip in, let's say you're fighting with whoever, if you could say, okay, I'm going to send all my soldiers back to a time period when there wasn't a conflict, so they can walk right in, and then they're going to materialize in today and kill everybody. I mean, it's too good of a scenario for any government to pass up. You know what I mean?
100%. 100%. I mean, we'd forget Hitler in a second because he'd be gone.
That's right. It's so funny.
Yeah, I agree.
It's, these things, they have to be studying. And well, we know they studied them in the past because their stuff comes out, right? So stuff comes out that they did all kinds of different studies for as far as time goes, as far as, remote viewing, right? So people who
USS Eldridge.
Yeah,
all
this stuff.
Yeah,
it's there's just a million of them at this point. So they've been looked into, and then now, for instance, like you talk about the UFO UAP thing. Well, we'll think wait a minute, this might be real. And so it's like they're loosening their grip on it. But if you notice, they didn't loosen their grip until they changed the term.
Yeah.
So UFO was the standard, and now UAP, they were trying to make UAP the standard, but they only started trying to make UAP the standard when they finally said, you know what, there may be something to this.
Yeah. I mean, it's this they again, isn't it? The they.
The they.
there is something, there is a they, but no one knows who, when, where, and you can think about it all you like, but you're probably wrong, in my opinion. You are never ever going to know, and that's the craziest thing. It's kind of scary, but at the same time, you know, with all of this stuff, my favorite thing with anything cryptid, anything paranormal, or anything just spectacular is whether it's real or not, I have a fucking good time reading about it and thinking about it. You know,
they're great to read about, right?
And that's it, and that is it. It's been a pleasure to have you here, Bob. What would you like to say to the listeners? And if anything you'd like to say, you can just give them a little reel off, tell them where to find you, and we'll let you get out of it.
I have my pad answer for all that, but you can find us at staticradio.com, Static Radio on all the socials if you really want to. But go on with your day. You don't need to know about me. You got too many interesting things going on in your life to worry about all this. But this is great fun though. I love talking about this stuff. It's fantastic.
Yeah, me too. Well, listen, he was completely incorrect. You should probably listen to him, because if this hour and 15 has said anything, it sounds like he's a good talker and it's good fun. So listen, I appreciate you being here, and if you are watching and listening, I appreciate you being here. And as I always say, just stay happy, be positive, make sure you're liking and following and all that shit, obviously, but just stay happy, be positive, check in with your friends, and when you ask someone, how are you? Just fucking mean it. Peace out.